Hello, this is Evan from SNEScentral.com. Today I'm going to show off some of my prototypes. Because of the nature of my lifestyle, I tend to move around the world quite a bit, so I'm going to put my prototypes in storage for a while as I fly across to Europe. I'm currently in Japan. Anyway, as anybody who's followed my site knows, I do a lot of articles on prototypes and unreleased games, and this, for whatever reason, has caught my attention more than other things like game reviews or doing these Let's Play videos. As you can tell from the quality of this video, I've not invested in any sort of high quality video equipment. Anyway, when it comes to prototypes, they are some of the only fragments of the development cycle of video games, especially from the 80s and 90s. And this is because most companies didn't keep a really good archive of the versions of the game while it was in development. One exception is with Sega, and there's a ton of Sega prototype stuff out there, and it's really quite wonderful to look at. But as far as Super NES, not so much. One of the problems with prototypes is that most of them originate from game magazine businesses. And because of this, most of the prototypes you find are either exactly the same as the final version of the game, or only superficially so. So my guess is that they would send a copy of the game prior to Nintendo's evaluation of it, and the final version has some minor bug fixes. Sometimes you get really lucky and find an unreleased game, but this is not common. Alright, and I'll start to go through what I have. First off, we have Human Grand Prix 2. This prototype is roughly, I would say, 80% complete. What is notable about this particular prototype is that it's an unplayable demo, so it just loops through the game, a few of the scenes of the game. It's probably used in some sort of convention. Next up is Wizardry 5. Now this is exactly identical to the final Japanese release. I got this in a lot of random prototypes off of Yahoo Japan auctions, and like a lot of prototypes, it's no different from final, and really it's you're paying for a cartridge rather than any data on it. Next up, The Simpsons. This is Bart's Nightmare. Again, this one was found in a lot of prototypes from Yahoo Japan auctions, and while it has a Japanese title on it, this is actually a US version of the game, and it's not technically a prototype. This is an actual retail board. There's no difference than if you bought a US copy of Bart's Nightmare and just took the PCB out. You could just stick your own label. It's exactly the same, and so it's kind of disappointing when it's like that, but sometimes it happens. Alright, this is one that I got from the Assembler Games forum from a seller named Simon Belmont, who's a prototype collector from the Netherlands. This is called Aoki Densetsu Shoot, and as far as I can tell, it's exactly the same as the final game. There's some differences in the ROM image, but they're very superficial. It could just be fragments from some game that was burnt on beforehand. Here's another one I got off of Yahoo Japan Auctions. This has a cardboard label on the back, probably to sort of protect the back. This is called Sankyo Fever. And again, this is a pachinko game. There's lots of pachinko games in Japan, but it's kind of boring. It's exactly the same as Final. Again, most prototypes are like that. This one is more interesting. This is a prototype of the Firemen, and before it didn't have stickers on the EEPROM windows. If you collect prototypes, you should definitely put stickers over the EEPROM windows, because they could get erased by exposure to ultraviolet light. I put my website on the sticker just to show that I was the one who put the stickers on. They aren't original. The Firemen, it's a pretty common prototype. You find a lot of copies of this. When it was originally dumped by Matthew Callis back in 2008, I believe, there was a mistaken belief that this prototype was for an unreleased US version of the game, because it's got an NTSC video type, and the English version was released in Europe. And if you play this game, it's almost the same as Final. The English in it is kind of bad, and they did edit it for the European release. But as far as I can tell, there's no actual information about a potential US release of this game. And honestly, I think that it's just a prototype of the European version. The developer, Imagineer, they didn't have a US division, so I just don't see how it would have been planned for a US release unless I get some actual more information about it. This is a prototype of Super Fire Pro Wrestling 2. It's kind of neat because Human Entertainment actually made their own labels for their prototypes. I have obviously have a few of these. This prototype's, there are a little bit of differences in the binary, but as far as I can tell, it's pretty much exactly the same as Final. But it does have some nice stickers on it. This prototype, like the Human prototypes, I got this from Simon Belmont off the Assembler Games forum. This is Demon's Blazon, tends to be the most common Super Famicom prototype you'll ever find. I know there's at least 5 copies of this floating around. It was originally dumped by Matthew Callis a few years ago. The game itself is probably around 70 to 80% complete, but yeah, there's a lot of these around, and because of the rarity of the actual game, the prototypes can actually be purchased for less than a legitimate copy of a retail copy of the game. But as far as the prototype, you wouldn't know just by looking at it. You have to play it. I haven't done an article on SNEScentral.com yet on this, so that's future plans. And another Human prototype, again, I bought this off Assembler Games forum. This is Super Fire Pro Wrestling 3. Unlike the Super Fire Pro Wrestling 2 prototype that I have, this is an unplayable demo, and looking through the demo, it's clear that it's not a demo based on the final version of the game. You can't really play it, but it's kind of interesting nonetheless, more interesting than a final prototype. This one's still in a bag. It's a prototype of Kid Clown in Crazy Chase. I bought this off Dream TR during one of his massive prototype sales. I had a look at this, and it's almost identical to final again. I haven't done an article on this yet, but I will at some point. I got this one in the Yahoo Japan auctions lot. This is let's see my notes here. This is this is Tactical Soccer. The PCB is identical to a Japanese release of this, so it's not a prototype by my definition of a prototype, and the only reason I'm including this is because I got it in a lot of prototypes, so I assume this was used by magazine for review. Next up, Super Uno. Again, I got this off of an auction on Yahoo Japan Auctions. The prototype is almost identical to the final version. Looking at the binary, it looks like most of the differences are purely just remnants of whatever was burnt on the EEPROM chips previously. This is another retail PCB. It was in the lot of prototypes from Yahoo Japan Auctions that I got. This is NBA All-Star Challenge, and it's just a US PCB, no different from the US version. On the back there's a red sticker which says it is before, or something like that. My Japanese knowledge is limited, despite the fact that I'm currently in Japan. It basically would be identical to the same prototype. This is another Super Famicom prototype that I got from Yahoo Japan Auctions. There was no stickers on the label or on the EEPROMs, so I put some on. There's something on the back. This is a prototype of Super Ozumo Nessen Dai Ichiban. It's a sumo wrestling game. It's almost the same as final. I haven't done an article yet. Don't worry, it's fine. But I will at some point. Finally, got one of these mega boards. You know, some people like to buy these because the board is so huge compared to other prototypes. Just as an example here. This is a prototype of Ultra Baseball 2. It's identical to final.